We see. You don't see shit, man. Y'all don't see me. Dude, it's Race to World first filming season again, where I guess I can't complain about it too much because I don't really have to do anything with that for like months at a time. But dude, leading up to the race, you gotta be filming videos and taking pictures and all that shit. So I'm gonna be busy a little bit coming up. But honestly, I've I've limited my farm streaming hours enough where it probably won't be. I won't be streaming any less than I am now. I just, you know, Liquid about to take the whole expansion for the race. That would be ideal. I haven't lost in a while, but I remember how bad losing feels. So you don't wanna feel that. Dude, it's so true when people say that losing sucks so much more than winning feels good. It's like I don't even know the order of magnitude that's true, but it's by multiple. Like it's crazy how much worse it is. Like winning feels like a relief. Actually, I guess there's like levels to that, right? Like if you're winning a lot, losing feels like a relief because you feel like you should win. But like compare that to like the first time we won. You kind of forget because it's been a while, but that probably felt as good as any loss has felt bad, maybe. But that was so long ago. It was almost 7 years ago. Max, have you fixed the mic or are you holding it? I'm holding it. I mean, it'll get fixed in a few weeks when I go to the facility. Oh, we're yelling. Max, I live in Madison, Wisconsin. Any restaurants you missed that I need to hit up? Ooh, yeah, Glass Nickel Pizza goes hard. Um, dude, there was this like sandwich shop thing that was really good, and I forget the name of it, but it was legit like maybe my favorite place to eat of any of the cities I've lived in, like consistently. But I just realized I don't remember the fucking name. It's in Middleton, in which is like, I mean, it's like right next to Madison. Dude, what the name? Z Grill? Some kind of fuck, dude. This is gonna make me really mad. There's a ton of places to eat. I just need to. I'm just gonna search on Google Middleton restaurants until it shows up because it's cat. I think I found it if I remember. Yeah. It's called Cafe Zupas. Cafe Zupas. That place. It's real close to Madison, and it goes absolutely insane. It's so good. Oh my god, I wish I still lived near there. Well, not really. I like living here better, but dude, I also miss shout out anyone who lives in Dallas or near Dallas, like in the Frisco or like Plano area. Um there's like this food court place called Legacy West, I think. If you've ever been there, it's basically just like every kind of food you can imagine, but just like pretty high quality, kind of bougie, but real good. They got some banger ass lobster rolls in there. Got a nice taco place. You go there all the time. Yeah, dude, Legacy West goes crazy. There's honestly nothing like that in LA. LA's food is incredible, obviously, but there's nothing quite like that place. Anyways, let's go live. Hello. Dude, I'm filming some pretty important stuff in the next 2 days, and I unfortunately forgot to get my haircut in time for the season of recording things. So at least for the first couple this week, I'm gonna have this massive head of hair that I have right now. But on Wednesday, I'm getting all cleaned up. So it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's figured out. It's just gotta get more figured out, kind of. At least the beard is trimmed, though. Yeah, I'm looking pretty tough, but it's okay. We're gonna survive. Um, okay, I'm gonna tell you guys something because I think it'll be kind of interesting. But you guys have to promise that you can't flame me for any reason before I do that. So as long as we can get on the same page here. Let me make sure that my YouTube chat is showing. You won't? Okay, cool. I watched Back to the Future for the first time last night. Movie was cool. It was good. I liked it. Makes sense why it's a really well-known, famous, good movie. My only real issue with that movie, okay, I don't have an issue with it. I get like the whole like foreshadowing in the first act and stuff. It's all really cool. So, okay, you know in like the original reality where Marty's dad, George McFly, he's like, you know, kind of like a nerd, gets pushed over, stuff like that. Do you guys think it's super likely that so like Marty McFly objectively is cool as fuck? Like he's got Riz, he's he's charming, all that stuff, right? But his dad is like the polar opposite of that. Is it common for that to be the case? You know what I mean? Like is it common that someone whose dad or parents are like super corny or whatever, or just not have good social skills, and then you end up not through the way you're raised or anything, just end up being cool as fuck? Does that happen? I never thought about that until I saw that movie, and I'm like, that's interesting. Yeah, bro rizzed up his own mom. That's tough. Max, you ever gonna get the boys back on to do an update on the Mythic Plus dungeon tier list? Yeah, we can. Honestly, I've kind of strayed away from doing a lot of dungeon content just because I'm not doing them. You know? I guess maybe that's obvious, but or doesn't seem like really profound or anything, but like I did used to really think about dungeons a lot and like how it affects the game. And I still do. But when it comes to like ranking dungeons on a tier list, I think that's good content and an interesting way to talk about the dungeons maybe. But why would it be on my channel? Why would I do it, right? I'm not super passionate about it. I've probably done each of those dungeons like 2 times this season, you know? There are seasons in the past and maybe in the future where I am super into it and I feel really, really passionate about the rankings and where I would do something like that. But like right now, why would I do that? You know, I don't even do them. I would just be saying things, or I would just be hosting it. But then why am I hosting it? I just don't care, you know? Max, when predictions on raid roster? Oh, you guys want to guess a raid comp? Do you want to do it now, or you want to give it a couple weeks? I feel like tuning is still. I mean, it's like that every patch though, and also I give you a chance to update it in the future, so it could be kind of. I'd be really interested to see where you guys stand on that right now, actually. Yeah, I do want to do it. We're gonna do that today. That sounds really fun, actually. Because like right now things are they're gonna change a lot. But I mean, it is, if anything, like it's not an official this is what you think is gonna get run in progression thing. You can base it just off of what you see right now. So it can be a cool like little snapshot in history. Like when we look back on this in the future, we can be like, well, you guys predicted there's gonna be like 5 or 6 of this super broken DPS spec. And then like obviously when progression comes around that won't be true, but like we'll all just remember back to the time that one class was so crazy during testing or something, you know? Would it be too chaotic to do it per boss? Comps differ like crazy between bosses? Not really. That's not true. Like the comp in quotes for the raid historically on like most bosses is the same. It's just on certain bosses you'll make some swaps that are like tech specific, and they've been kind of leaning heavy into that this tier, you know, and last year. Kind of recently they've done a thing where they've like required a very different comp on certain bosses. Like last year Moonkins were atrocious, but like you just wanted a million of them on sticks. Shadow Priests were kind of good throughout, but then like there's a few bosses that just required different stuff. But like if you just look at the average like raid boss, which is a single target boss you're hitting with some ads every now and then, that kind of boss, like the comp is largely the same for all of those bosses, which is most of the raid, you know? Are we getting an 11.2 tier list with you and all the good class writers? Yeah, I think it's a little early to do that. But coming up shortly, for sure. I usually try to have that out like during the first week of the patch, before like the season comes out, or right before it, just to give enough time to give accurate information. Dude, let's actually go back and look at that. How accurate were the chatters? Let's see. My channel, scroll down, last tier. War Within patch 11.1 tier list with the WoW community.
Yeah, so
here we go. All right, scrolling all the way to the end. Okay. So, but keep in mind this is a little hard list to make because not only are they ranking all of the things against each other, and they're all have their own different ideas for like some could be optimists and pessimists, some could be literally lying, who knows, right? But also they're not doing it for raid or Mythic Plus, they're doing it for both. So sometimes you could be like a Mythic Pluser and see something ranked really highly, and then in raid that thing was great. They also could have just been wrong, but like let's see what they got right. Like what did they get right about this? Just all PvE. They ranked AUG in really fucking bad. I feel like that was pretty accurate. Ret was put in really fucking bad, although if I remember, the end of this thing was, I'm pretty sure my bit in this tier list was we didn't talk to a ret guy, so we're just gonna put it in the absolute bottom and it's just gonna be like not ranked basically, but it'll be good for the the thumbnail. I'm pretty sure. Some dude called you in the bath. Oh yes. Oh yeah, that guy. So that made me put them at the bottom. I remember that now. Which I shouldn't do that in the future, specifically with Ret Paladin, because I don't know if you guys looked at the recent Mythic Plus numbers, but it just reinforces the fact that just more people play Ret Paladin in this game than any other spec. So if there's any spec that I do a bit and I don't rank them, it probably shouldn't be the one where the most people are tuning in to actually see how good it is. But all good. Or maybe that is what makes it a good bit. So they got Og right. I feel like they got Prez right? So Prez is in C, and I remember in Heroic Week with 30-man scaling, people thought Prez was going to be a lot better than it was. And then it ended up being, I think, by far the worst Mythic Plus healer. And it was not really utilized in Raid, Prez Evoker. So I feel like the guide writers got Prez right. Dude, Prez is so weird, man. I really think, I know I harp on this a lot, but I really wish Blizzard would pay more attention to healer damage. Because, I'm looking at it this tier, and I'm looking at it last tier. Every healer has... It's not like Rewind doesn't matter. You can get, all the regular Evoker utility from other Evokers if you need it, which you don't, right? It just happens to be that there's an Evoker spec that's really OP every tier. But, okay, Prez has to be dunking HPS to get brought as a healer. It has to be, and not it has to be, okay, maybe not season 1 good, but at least close to that. Because if it's doing similar HPS to other healers, let me give an example. This is let me do a little paint. Let me do a little paint. I don't break paint out enough. Here's the issue with Prez, man. This is true all the time. Okay, so if you're used to looking at bars, right? You're looking at Warcraft logs healing, and you see a big bar here. Then you see one that's really close but not really, and then it just goes down sequentially. Maybe there's 2. Oh my god, that one's literally longer. Dear God, this is not looking great, but you'll get the point in a second. All right, so if these are your healers, right? Whatever. Okay, and then this one is your Prez, which I'll get something close to Prez here. Let's say this is your Prez healer. This isn't good enough to play Prez. Because, no matter what this healer is below it, it has other benefits. Maybe they have, mainly damage. Pretty much no matter what flavor of healer you're getting, that's second here, if your meters look like this, or if logs look like this, or if, overall healing efficiency looks like this, you're gaining maybe an actual useful raid buff, which Preservation does not have. There's certain bosses where you might really, really want the things that Evoker can bring. But even then, DPS Evokers now bring the most value, unless you're Flame Shaper. Flame Shaper Prez or Flame Shaper Dev is the highest tier of Evoker utility. Let's say it's Paladin. Paladin brings a useful raid buff, and it brings more damage than 0. This is Race World for stuff, but if it's a Priest, they bring more damage than 0, and they have a cheat death if they're holy, and if disc, they have barrier, which is better than anything Prez has. If it's Shaman, or if it's... You see what I'm saying? Every other healer just has more value. I don't know why I'm doing all the paint stuff, but I'm just pointing out that the fact that Preservation Evoker does actually 0 damage in a raid environment makes it so they're one of the only healers basically that just has to just be not just the best HPS healer, but the best HPS healer by a fair amount, I think, to be good. I guess another argument could be if there's a version of them that just does a certain kind of healing better than other healers, they're the best ramp healer and there's a ton of burst damage in the raid, which I guess there usually always is, or they're the best spot healer or something. A reversion build is just carrying all the targeted damage on a fight or something. But the thing is a lot of healers are good at all of those things. So, okay, that's just my only thing. Oh, what else? So I guess survival was kind of mid this season. Ooh, anything else they got right? So Enhanced got put in 5 big booms, but also they got nerfed after after this list, to be fair. Multiple things were nerfed and buffed after this list, but what are some other things that I guess they got like a decent amount of these in A, right? Okay, what did the tier list get wrong? Like, what is on here that's just like totally fucking wrong? I feel like Evoker was wrong. So some of you guys who've been playing the whole season might be like, yeah, of course, Evoker should have been in like Giga S tier, at least if you're talking about raid. But like Evoker should have been even lower, honestly, than A for progression. Race to World First, Evoker was really bad. It was only after the race was over, like 3 weeks into the patch, where they made this good. Yeah, Unholy being low. It's an interesting thing to put Unholy. No one was expecting Unholy, I think, to be like the meta DPS spec. So I mean, they just definitely got this wrong. But they also weren't like very useful in raid either. So if you're just judging on raid, this would have been pretty accurate. But yeah, they ended up being like Giga Meta Mythic Plus, right? What else do we have here? DH is wrong. You think disc goes to 5 big booms? Yeah, you used one disc basically the entire raid, and they're the Meta Mythic Plus healer. That is objectively 5 big booms, right? Havoc is too high. I mean, Havoc was good in the raid. They're not in like the Meta Mythic Plus comp. I don't know how far off they are than that. Probably decently, because Vengeance is already like taking the spot, right? But I mean, I imagine if Vengeance wasn't there, you also still wouldn't play Havoc, so maybe Havoc's a little lower than that. I feel like Havoc is always like A tier in every single season. Like they're always like pretty solid at everything. Fury was easily S in raid. Ooh. Nah. S in raid is like what like Devastation Evokers are on live and farm clears right now. You know what I mean? Like S is like something that truly stands apart. I actually don't know if there was really any S tier DPS in raid last tier in the Race World First, except for maybe Windwalker. But obviously it got nerfed after that, and it's target capped, so it's not great in Mythic Plus. Or not the best. It's still pretty good. Like Monk's pretty good in Mythic Plus. Fire was S. Was Fire? I mean, yes, right? I mean, you ran 3 or 4 of them on the end boss. But how much of that is due to like the specific part of the end boss of like it being a you can't die mechanic, and it's a class with a cheat death and also has a million defensives? But that is also part of their power level, but it's more like boss specific. I mean, you ran 3 or 4 of them on Muggsy. You ran 2 of them on One Arm Bandit. And it was like basically 2 for the rest of the raid. So like I guess that's a pretty decent argument. And then are they Abyss and Mythic Plus? Or don't you play Arcane? Rogues. I feel like rogues weren't really A tier, but there's a couple of them that are pretty good in Mythic Plus right now in like the physical comp, right? But I feel like in raid they were just fine. Balanced Druid in A is interesting. They're in the Meta Mythic Plus comp, right? But in my opinion, they were like straight ass in raid. You saw them do decent damage numbers on most of the bosses after the race was over. But there's a reason that balanced druids are oftentimes, if they're not great, are avoided in the race, and that is that they are probably still the squishiest class in the game. And if you're killing the bosses a few weeks after us, you don't feel that as much because you just have more HP and your healers have more gear. But like when you're doing the real cutting edge stuff, when a class is this squishy, you just totally feel it. They can add wipes. It's just not ideal. Hunters love to say that they're the squishiest. I mean, hunters used to be at that level. I mean, hunters can still die for sure. I would say like the issue, not the issue, but like the way the defensiveness works in this game is there's basically every class in the game is like average, like they're all about as tanky as each other, and then there's like 4 or 5 specs, well, 4 or 5 classes that are just obscenely tanky. I think 4 classes that are just absurdly tanky, and then there's 1 spec of one class that I think is squishy, and basically everyone else is, they've done a pretty good job of making it consistent. At least purely raid speaking, right? Isn't Prot Warrior wrong? Yeah, I think we ran a Prot Warrior. Didn't we run a Prot Warrior this raid? I think we did. And then they're one of the like few non-Vengeance Demon Hunters you can play in Mythic Plus, right? So that's like pretty good. Oh, Shadow Priest in B, I don't think is right? Because like they ended up being kind of insane in the raid, but less to do with Shadow Priest itself and more to do with like Blizzard's design of raid fights. Always a super interesting thing I like to think about all the time is you could basically have the exact same tuning going into every tier, or going into any tier. Like you could take the tuning for this season and the tuning for last season, and do the other raid with the other tuning, and like the meta could be totally different based on what the bosses require of you. And like so Shadow Priest, for example, seemed a lot better than it maybe actually was this raid because they just kept making bosses that were just so broken for that. Elemental Shaman on A is kind of bad. I mean, that's... Dude, Ellie Shaman is weird, man. They're always just... Like, you need a Shaman buff, and even when you didn't need a Shaman buff, Ellie... Truly, I believe this. Ellie Shaman was really close to being, like, a really good Race to World first range spec, and we even had a really good Ellie Shaman at the time, until we kind of gave up on the fact that they'll ever make Ellie Shaman good in the race. Like Ellie Shaman was almost brought to so many raids. It was just so close and it just barely lost its spot. Like actually almost every tier in the last like couple expansions. But then unfortunately Enhance is just always sick. Enhance is just, it's just like the reason you don't see Ellie is because of Enhance. But I think Ellie ended up being like a really solid Mythic Plus spec, right? So, I mean, I feel like A's like kind of fair beans, you know? Like, we didn't play them in the race, but just because we don't play something in the race doesn't mean they're bad. Like, for example, if you're bringing a certain amount of shamans because you want win rushes and you need at least one for the raid buff, and there's just one of the shamans that's better, this thing could, like, in theory, Ellie could be S tier, but then, like, Enhance is, like, double S tier, and you just don't play any Ellies, you know? Kind of. Okay. All right, we can talk about some more of this shit later. What we're gonna do, we're gonna have you guys. Okay, let's do this first. So, you know, maybe we look at raid testing. So let's look at raid testing, and then I'm gonna have you guys make a raid comp. Okay. I know that stuff is crazy. I know they're gonna fix it up. There's a lot of weird tuning right now, but hey, just for like having fun with it, at least for me, making what a raid comp would look like right now based on crazy tuning is kind of fun, because then next week maybe that could all change, and then it's like, okay, well maybe now something else is different. But what's fun is the like thought process of getting to the point of like coming up with it in the first place, right? So you get extra content by doing that. Okay, so where would I find raid testing? Who did you guys have a good POV for like every boss on Mythic? On, I guess you could, okay, so there was testing Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and I didn't stream any of those days, obviously. Is there, I wonder if there's any, I guess we could just look at all the Mythic bosses. We used preheats last time. Let's do that, fuck it. Oh, well, we're into Mythic now, so you'd want to go with the guilds that actually got the farthest. Millie from ID. Okay, wait. Is there someone used to do this in ID, and they would basically make a YouTube video of all their Mythic testing, and it would include their best pull on every boss, and that saves me so much fucking time. Do you guys know if that exists? Did someone do that, at least from ID? Because ID is like by far the best guild in the world that actively streams raid testing. Millie says, I have the YouTube video up again. Oh my fucking god, you're a beast. Millie Wow. I just type Millie Wow. It'll be there for sure. Yup. Goat. Absolute goat. Absolute goat. Here's the video. Okay. Turn up the quality though. Oh, this is from last year. That's hype. Well, at least we'll find the same Same, dude. Yeah, here we go. Mythic. All bosses. Starting with the first one. Alright, young Plexus Sentinel. Pretty much same thing as Heroic. Just the, there's an ad that spawns in the intermission, but I'll just give you, like, I'll show you just, like, one little rotation of what this fight is going to look like. So, basically, you just get these little... You get these little circles you put on the edge. These, until they're soaked, will stun and port the first person who soaks them. So it's basically matters for the intermission. It's not just area denial in this phase. The other thing is you guys see this wall coming on Mythic. The wall moves, and you have to just blink through it. Use your cloak. You'll see this. You just blink through. You have a little bit more of an invuln besides just when you're flying in the air. And that's basically all of P1. There's a tank mechanic that goes out, and then there's a group soak. This little group soak. That's all of P1. All right, cool. And then what happens is the boss gets to 100 energy. It pushes everyone away. And then it puts a bunch of shit you have to dodge. And then it wants you to kill these 2 void manifestations, which makes Death Grip extremely good. This is they started from boss number 1. They're like, you want fucking Death Grip right away. These 2 ads that spawn separate. Kill them real quick. Blink through. And then you just have to dodge a bunch of shit. So what they did to try to make this boss interesting is the farther you go in the fight, the longer you have to go. So here's what like a later one looks like. So it is a raid buff. Well, the DK raid buff thing, no, I'm not going to go on a whole tangent right now. They can like really focus on it and make DK grip needed on basically every fight in one raid and say it's a raid buff and be right. It's just there's not a lot of confidence that they'll continue to do that for every single raid, but it also could happen, you know. It's just all that shit. Okay. So they kill this ad. They weren't gripping them. Are they only getting 1 ad? You know what was really weird about this raid testing? There was at least one boss in this raid testing where like half the guilds that were testing a boss got a mythic mechanic that wasn't in the journal and the other half didn't. I wonder if ID got it. It was on a Fractalist, so maybe they were only getting 1 ad or maybe they just never gripped it. Oh, do they even have a DK? Yeah, they have 2 DKs in raid. Bro, you sound so bored on this boss. I mean, yeah, it's a first boss, right? I think a good first boss is like visually kind of cool. Hopefully there's like some cool theme, like maybe the one from the last raid. And then realistically, it's like able to be killed in a couple pulls in a pug. It's really easy to understand, and it's not really challenging you at all. It's like an extension of Heroic, usually easier, should be easier than like the last boss on Heroic. That's the idea, to kind of bridge you into Mythic. Cool. That's first boss. Second boss, Lumathar. Shout out the tree boss from Terra's Land. That's literally what this boss is. So basically, you guys see these little lines. There's going to be these pylons that spawn throughout P1. And you need to soak them before they go into the boss, or it kind of fucks you. Everyone else, there's these walls, and they spawn on the pole and everything, where the tank has to hit them with these little webs. It's basically Aranog, but 2 walls come in. So you have to kill both of these little tangles for you to get out. And then 4 people are going to get this, or it might have been 3 people on Mythic. No, it's 4, yeah. 4 people get this little tether, and then they need to go run and break it on the outside of the room. It gives stacking damage, and then it goes away. If you stack them on top of one that's already there, you get stunned, so it makes you not want to, like, you know, stack them. It's supposed to be some kind of ramping area denial that matters for the last phase. And then, like, I'll skip ahead a little bit. Near the end of this phase, do you see others, like, oh, they just have 1 pulsing into the boss. They're probably just testing that, or they just don't give a fuck. So the idea is you need people to, like, soak these even during these walls, which creates somewhat of an interesting challenge, but, you know, second boss, so not super challenging. And then the boss goes to 50%, tears its ass off for some reason, and then starts, like, putting stuff all over the room, and then you are basically in an area denial until you wipe phase. Does a little knockback, which you have to spread out for. Huh? I mean, it's actually true. That's just what the boss do. It just does damage, and you just alternate soaks and go to the end of the boss and kill it. That's the second boss. Third guy, this is like, this was kind of interesting on testing. I just feel like it's missing something, but basically they just spawn ads all across the room. You gotta hit each one of these things 1 time with this orb mechanic. So you'll see it now. You see these little lines that are on this guy. one of these lines has to hit this thing. It's called a machine, and then that makes it able to be hit by this next mechanic, which are these lines. Once those lines hit these machines, well, that one's not going to hit because the DH just stayed in melee, but then you kill these ads, and you'll see this 80-second timer. In 80 seconds, all the ads around the room are going to spawn. So they give you the choice of removing 6 of them if you do it properly. Like you would have done 2 here, but they messed up and only did 1. The boss has a knockback. When the knockback happens, it does a little area denial. So like the area denial I think is relevant because the boss just does the same thing over and over again. It's a very basic kind of fight. It's basically Lihivam if it was earlier in the raid and just super fucking easy. So this just ended up being super easy. I think they definitely need to add something in this fight because there's you know, it's just like there's a lot of ways to do this where it just seems so basic. They do another knockback, they leave shit on the ground, they do some in the middle, and then you'll notice the ads now spawn in a, like, if you didn't kill them in like the chrysalis thing, now they're just a little bit harder. They have more HP. They actually do mechanics, obviously. So you just AoE down some ads, you get one more knockback, and then you just repeat that. That is the entire fight on Mythic. So like a little bit of ad cleave. W. Moving on. Sounds like the difficulty curve might be Nerebar-esque. Oh, what? Like the first 4 bosses are super easy? I mean, maybe. I think it's always really hard to tell based on testing, but I mean, like, compare this to, like, Rick Reverb. Like, Rick Reverb has, like, way more going on. It's also a lot more challenging. Like, even in testing, Rick Reverb was significantly harder than this fight. Not to say testing always shows difficulty. They could ramp numbers up. They could make the ads actually crazy. They could literally add a mechanic, right? And then you have next boss, which is, like, the Styx equivalent. In a few ways. Same spot in the raid. It's, like, a decent jump in difficulty from the first 3. And also it like is asking a different comp from you than maybe you would bring in the rest of the raid. So this boss's whole bit is spawns an arcane echo. You have to cleave down, can't be near the boss. Puts down this little dimensional rift. What this rift does is it'll make it so the ads that spawn from these dudes are otherwise not like able to take any damage or be slowed until they go through this portal. So you just like cleave it. This boss is just cleave ads on top of boss. You guys love that. Like Mythic plus profile kind of shit. At least until the intermission with a little multi-dotting. So like this Forge Weaver and the Arcane Echo are really spread. They keep AoEing these ads. Cool. Alright, then intermission happens. Little damage amp on this fight too. Man, they've really been going in on the damage amps recent raids. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think damage amps, if damage amps line up with your cooldowns, I'm just kind of a fan of that. At least 100% damage amps. I think, like, the last boss has a 200% damage amp. I'm a little concerned with that because 200% is such a massive number that, you know, you could have a really well-made fight, and then it turns out the best thing for you to do is just stack classes that are exactly good at that amp because it could lower your DPS requirement or make a boss killable. And I feel like that's a little too specific. They changed the last boss to 100? Yeah. Probably for that exact reason. Okay. Okay, this is the interesting thing about Mythic. So you guys see these 3 collectors? They have to die at the same time or you basically get fucked. So they kill them all at the same time. Which, I mean, you can imagine, right? So there's no attackable boss here. There's just 2 attendants, which can really just be cleaved, and then there's 3 splinters spread out by at least 40 yards. So basically, if you're like a warrior, for example, you're just single targeting one of these alone, and a Shadow Priest is in the middle dotting all 3 of them. So super, super comp specific for this if it ends up being challenging at all. But in testing, it really wasn't. But again, in theory, they should make all testing bosses a lot easier than they are on live because the purpose of testing is for you to see all the mechanics, make sure things work well and stuff like that. So it kind of makes sense. If there's like an early wall P1 mechanic, maybe you tune that the fuck down so people aren't... Like, if the reality is there's a super hard P1 mechanic in any testing boss to where no one sees farther in the fight, the purpose of that testing is like massively reduced, right? They didn't probably get what they wanted out of it. Okay, so then you basically repeat that in P2. There's some things that are slightly different, but it's not relevant. And the end of this boss is a nice little burn. So you get out of the last phase. You go to the edge of the room. You get a little damage amp. And then now you're trying to get sucked into the void. There's ads that are trying to go into the void. If the ads or you go into the void, you get fucked. Boss didn't have a ton of HP, so you didn't really have to do much of this. But that's basically the last phase. You're just constantly getting sucked and having to burn the boss right after an amp from like 25 to 0. But overall, these are the first 4 bosses. So like this is what you can compare against like 1 through Rashanan. I think it's actually kind of similar, at least in complexity. Like if you're talking about Liberation of Undermine complexity, bosses 1 through 4, bosses 3 and 4 were asking a lot of you. Where Sikrin and Rashanan happened to be tuned really easy, but also just what the fight was asking you to do was not super challenging. I would say these 3rd and 4th bosses, this does not mean they're going to be easy. At least what they're putting on the plate in front of you to consume is a lot easier than the Liberation version. Which I always find really interesting how Blizzard usually makes big swings in either direction. Like Liberation of Undermine happened, and you could have probably imagined that bosses 1 through 4 were going to be a little bit more challenging, and they were. And there was an issue where a few of them were too challenging for a lot of people. So where does Blizzard end up this raid, right? What is their focus going in? I find that really interesting. But the vibes are cool though, right? At least Dorky said this on the podcast where he said like the Void theme, and this is subjective as fuck, but he just said like the Void theme was like the first raid that he's seen in like a few years even that he was like, I really want to do this raid because it looks aesthetically really cool. Like, he wasn't really into the casino goblin-y type shit like me and Dranos were. Okay, and then Soul Hunters. This is your council boss of the raid. I'm going to ignore the optional thing for now because I still have absolutely no idea why that's there. But yeah, 3 bosses. They all do different stuff. Main mythic thing that's different is 2 things. So number 1, the hunt happens. When the hunt goes out, it's going to grip you right before it every single time. So you're going to see a Sigil of Chains right here that the Vengeance Demon Hunter boss casts. It's going to grip everyone to this spot, and then it's going to cast the hunt on 3 people. This has a 500% vuln to make you not want to soak 2 in a row. It has a spread within the soak, and they go out slightly separately. So you see they lost 1 person to the first soak and 0 people to the other 2, but like it's by far the most challenging part of the fight, I think, is the hunt. Meanwhile, you have like stacking dots on people or stacking healing absorbs that you need to dispel. Very similar to Forgotten Experiments, but much easier. Also, having that on you makes you able to soak this stuff in the room. So this is like the basic gameplay of this fight, and then there's 3 distinct intermissions. I actually thought going into this that they were going to do 2 intermissions at a time, but they opted to do 1 at a time, with the added difficulty being that you're tethered to other people. So the first intermission starts. It's the new Demon Hunter specs phase, Collapsing Star. So in Heroic, you just like spread out around the room and soak these. The Mythic complication is it tethers you to 2 other people. Specifically, it tethers 2 people to 1 person. So it's not like there's a line of a tether. It's like there's an alpha male. That's what we called them, the alphas. And then there's 2 people attached to that person. So like it's at least kind of interesting how you would spread your alphas around the room so you could actually do this spread. Because like if you're attached to this person here and you go try to soak even here, you're going to get yanked back. It's pretty short. So that's like the difficulty of the intermissions and probably why there's not 2. And yeah, that's it. So that's the main thing in Mythic is you just get tethered during those phases. And the Enrage looks sick. It's like technically an Enrage, but basically after all 3 of them do their phase, it very quickly does all 3 of their phases at once with tethers until you kill them. So like it's a really cool Enrage in my opinion. So I'm going to show you the next one. The next one is just Fell Rush. So think like a Blaze phase. You guys are used to like spreading out and dodging blazes. Think Kaiveza, think actually Virak where they use Blaze. Except now you're tethered with people close to you. So again, there's another reason for the alphas to have to spread out, but it's like a little harder to dodge because like, remember with blazes, you always wanted to dodge like along your line. Well, now you can't really do that because there's oftentimes not enough room. This person did that correctly, but a lot of times you're going to see people moving them around a little bit to not cleave the people they're tethered to, or you just have to eat multiple. But it hits really, really hard. It probably hit much harder even during live. And then you have the end here. Last one is just a Vengeance Demon Hunter phase. Let me see if I can find it. Should be here. Yeah, so this guy just charges and does Infernal Leap, and then he does Feldev. And if you are in front of the Feldev, you just get roasted. This wasn't super punishing on testing, but I imagine that'll just like kill you on live. The difficulty here is you kind of need to choose where to go with your partners, because if you don't, you're going to yank them or you're going to get yanked back, depending on which one's the alpha. And then the enrage of the fight is this. So the enrage, it's about to like do this again. Okay, so now everyone gets tethered. They go to the middle, and they do all 3 phases at once. This is ideally you'd have to kill the boss before this point, but in my opinion, like a really cool progression kill of this is you have to do like 5% of all of their HP in this phase, and you have to actually do all 3 at once, because it is feasible to do. It's just extremely difficult. Is it a soft or a hard enrage? It's soft. Like you can see, like this is, just look at it for 2 seconds. Not only do you have to do fell rushes and spread out along the room, but also the boss is fell deving, and you have to soak these collapsing stars. Like, it's absolutely nuts, right? Like, pretty hard. All right, and then the last 2 fights. So you have Fractalus. This is the boss that's interesting, because some guilds got a mechanic on this fight and some guilds didn't. If you didn't get the mechanic, the boss was just absolutely nothing. It's super easy to figure out. Anyone could do it in a basic spreadsheet of like where you would put the walls and why. Basically, the bit of the fight is just like this. Each do paint again. Okay, so each wall, there's like 6 walls, right? Okay, so you can put walls here. You can put like 1 in each of the 6 phases. Except that depending on how many walls are in each one, they do different things. So let's do light blue for the first. So the first one in each lane is the normal wall, which just does stuff you have to dodge on the ground. The second one in each wave is a darker blue one, which is a heroic wall. What this does is it puts a spread mechanic on 7 people in the raid. And the third and fourth walls are mythic. What that does is when you break these, you get stacking raid damage that just goes out on the raid. And then there's another heroic wall after that. And then if you ever get 6 in any zone, you just instantly wipe. So what the 6th one isn't relevant. So basically the bit of this fight is it does things in a rotation like this. It does set of walls, not blue, sorry. You get 4 walls. This is a huge text for some reason, but I'll just do it like this. 4 walls, and then you get a tank mechanic. So you get 3 walls from the tank mechanic that you put in one zone. 3 tank walls, and then you get 4 walls again. And then you get 7 clears. So just going over some very basic stuff with you guys on this. Let's say you want to fill up... I'll just give you an idea of the fight without like fully going through it. Are you a graphic designer? Yes, I'm amazing at it. So let's say you do... The 4 walls go out. Cool, so you do those 4, and then you get a tank wall. So you have the tank go all the way to the right. He's going to spawn a normal, a heroic, and a mythic. And then now you get 4 walls again. Let's say you just do all 4 of these, same ones. Now you only have 7 clears, but you can see you have 4, 8, 11 walls. So you can only clear 7, and which one do you want to clear? What's cool about this fight, at least, from like a strategy perspective, and I imagine in progression, you guys aren't going to find this very cool, because this is absolutely the exact kind of boss where like you're going to get to it, you're going to have a weak aura package, or you're just simply not going to, regardless of weak aura or not, you're not going to think about where you go with each wall, because you're just going to do what has been proven to already happen. But at least this is the kind of boss for us. It's really fun because there's a lot of creativity on how you would pop the walls. So like later in the fight, you'll have to clear 7, but like exactly how much do you want? Do you want a bunch of swirlies on the ground? Do you want to have the entire raid spread? Or maybe you only want to pop 2, so only like half the raid are spreading. How many mythic walls can you live by popping? Can you make, if you don't plan this out ahead of time and you get like 5 of these at a time, maybe that number's high enough where you die, right? So where you clear and to make it easy for the raid is kind of the interesting part of this fight. And then at a certain point, you're going to run out of walls and you're going to wipe. It's actually kind of a short in range, which is kind of cool. There is one other caveat, and that is a mechanic that we didn't get in our testing, but we saw from other tests, and like it's obvious. At least we talked about like how you deal with it and stuff. But it was just weird that we just didn't get this mechanic. Whenever you break a heroic wall, so one of these blue walls right here, if you're a player and you get knocked into this blue heroic wall, you get a red circle around you, okay? And that lasts forever. And if you touch anyone else, you basically kill them. And as you go through the fight, you get more and more of these. So that adds an extra wrinkle of maybe wanting to avoid this one or specifically having certain people get these things. And honestly, when we were doing the fight, we were like, what is this fight? This fight makes no sense. There's no difficulty to this at all. It's like, even outside of the numbers, it's just like a pure throughput check, which I guess is kind of fun. But usually a boss this late in the raid, you expect a little more. And honestly, that mechanic makes this fight make sense. Because there's a lot of ways you could theoretically deal with that mechanic. And it makes the fight at least feel like you're doing something. So that's how Fractalus works. So you'll see they'll go through... each phase looks like that. So you get 4 walls. Fast forward a little bit. Tank wall goes out. It does 3 in a zone. It's going to do 4 more walls, just like this. They stack those up. And they're going to get a bunch of clears. So they're choosing to like over clear the tank wall. That's fine. So what they're going to get here, if I'm doing my math right, is they're going to get like... They're going to get a circle on like almost the whole raid. Big spread circles. There's going to be a few puddles on the ground. And there's going to be, I think, only exactly 1 stacking thing of raid damage. So this clear they've chosen to do, not like you have a lot of options on the first one, is basically they've chosen to giga spread out, get a little swirlies, and get they got like a 2 stack of raid damage as the way you've done it. Now you could do that a bunch of different ways, and as you go later in the fight, you get a ton of options, right? Because now you have more walls than you have the ability to deal with increasingly, and where you have the raid stand to be safe, and then exactly what mechanics you want is like kind of the difficulty of it. It's interesting. But at least if you didn't, it looks like Instant Dollars also did not get the red mechanic. So think about it like at this point. So if you're just like watching the raid here, it just kind of seems like everyone in the raid is stacking in like this zone or maybe this one. And they're spreading them out and putting the walls in the other spots and then just breaking them. And you'd be right. That is exactly what they're doing. And is that super basic? It absolutely is. But at this point in the fight, like at least 6 people or more, and about to be even more on this next break, can't stand next to anyone, and they're not going to be the same people every pull, most likely, right? Because it's random who gets walls and breaks, so it's going to be random who's getting these things, or marginally random, right? So, kind of interesting. I think it's kind of interesting, at least. That mechanic makes this fight a lot more complete. Interesting that it didn't show up for half the guilds in testing, and it also wasn't in the journal. So how come in the journal, like, it's not in the journal, and then it also just didn't... That's so weird. Nothing like that has happened in testing before. The whole, like, some people get a mechanic, some people don't. It's a new thing. So then, yeah, there's Fractalus. So I mean, this is, like, of the Sludge Fist variety, where I think this is true, where if you kill this boss, and you kill it before, like, you're about to wipe, it's probably not going to be very fun. But if you're having to kill this in, like, the soft/hardened rage, it's going to be really sick. I guess you call it like the Sludge Fist theory. Like, Sludge Fist ended up being the super awesome boss because somehow they tuned it, maybe on accident, but they tuned it to where when everyone killed it for the first time, you got it low a few times and wiped, and you really had to optimize damage. And that was, like, always true. But if you just, like, killed Sludge Fist easily, if you just made it to the 4th damage amp, then, like, Sludge Fist wouldn't mean anything to you, right? So this boss is very much like that, where, like, even though it has some cool elements, if it's just not tuned well DPS-wise for not just the race, but for everyone's guild, it just won't be very interesting, right? The 6 walls just insta-wipes you, though. Should they tune it down? No, I mean, like, so basically you don't have to get 6 walls in anything until right around the 5-minute enrage. So the 6 walls thing doesn't really matter because, like, you would only get 6 walls before that point if you messed up. And I think wiping you if you mess up on raid fights, especially this late in the raid, is fair. That's fair beans, you know? I don't know if Lil Pup is built like Sludge. I mean, there's interestingly, I mean, this is a very unique boss. Like, there's never really been a boss like this in WoW. They killed that boss. Okay, so cool. I don't know how far they see here. This is a new drop for me. Let's actually just scroll through their poll here. Looks like they're limping. Well, they show 2 pulls. How far do you make it? Looks like they're limping out of P1. And then you see the beams. Okay. This P1 looked insane. Yeah, so I'll show that. So P1 is Denathrius in a way. It is it's Sarkareth in a way, where as soon as the fight comes out, you get 3 of these stacks on everyone in the raid. There's also you just have to have 0 of these when the phase ends, but there's a mythic little kicker to that I'll show you when it actually shows up on the screen here. So now they're choosing to dodge in the middle. So what you're gonna see is there's these dragons around the room, and they're just gonna disappear and shoot these things at players, and these like basically one-shot you. So like super difficult to dodge, but something you have to do. Now they soak right here. This is like half the raid. This is the only way you get rid of your stacks. So that happens. Now you're going to see this. So you guys see this little spirit right here? So after every single tank combo, in which there are 3 total in this phase, depending on how many spirits you have lost. So it looks like most people in the raid have lost 1 spirit. Because that's really all you can do unless you double soak the Oathbreaker, or the Conquer, which is really difficult. Now they're all going to have to dodge 1 spirit. To do that, or not dodge, you need to look directly at it, and it's going to go through you. If you don't look directly at it, it's going to give you that stack back. It's going to give you another stack back. So to end this phase properly, you need to dodge every single, or you need to correctly look at every single spirit to do this correctly. So now also there's blaze lines. So after all this happens, they put out blaze lines. Looks like their strat is stay in the middle and just get these the fuck out of the raid. And then this just repeats. But the difficulty is you don't just have to dodge the ones you lose. So right there you saw him lose 1 stack and he had to look at his single spirit. After every single tank combo, it's going to shoot as many spirits at you as you currently have lost. So let's say he had 0. During the next 2 tank mechanics, he would have to correctly look at 3 spirits that all come like sequentially at you. I don't know if there's going to be a good POV because it looks like they limp near the end of this phase, but hopefully he lives. Okay, here we go. So now he's lost. He only has 1 stack left, and the tank mechanic ends. Okay, so you have to identify your spirits at this point. So now he has to look. It's Jadefire Masters, if you guys remember that. He looks at this one, and then he looks at this one. And he correctly did that, so he no longer has 2 things left. Their room looks crazy because of their blaze strat, but you see like Conquer. So now hopefully he gets 0. He does. So now you're going to see at the end of this, he has to dodge all, or look at all 3 spirits. So he gets 1, 2. He did it wrong, so he got like 2 of them back, but you would just look at all 3 spirits. And now everyone has to do this. If you mess up 1 single spirit in the entire phase, basically, you are going to get MC'd as soon as P2 starts. So yeah, pretty nasty P1, but also really short. Also along the Sarkareth line of phasing, where it might have a percentage health where, I mean, I'm pretty sure it does, that you won't reach on Mythic, at least really early, that you can't push beyond. So it may phase early if you hit that point. It was really unlikely to do that until like deep into farm. But this fight is going to start P2 at 2 minutes in. So it's going to be like a decently short encounter. And then P2, we already showed you earlier, is kind of interesting. They're not going to live and see this really long. But I was a little wrong on how... We assumed we were actually going to get 10 spread circles for these beams. But they just spawn like the 6 beams there, and there are dodge patterns you need to learn, basically. You see... Oh, you can see it. So it does a tank beam. It does these beams. Do they see anything else? Yeah, they get these beams. So you see like the little dodge pattern, right? I mean, basically here it's telling you to get out, then get in, then get out. And that's P2, at least the first part of P2, and then it splits you onto 2 platforms. You come back, and then you do that again. It looks sick, though. It looks like super sick. And then last phase. And then last phase, I showed you guys in the last testing thing. But last phase, basically, it puts down some orbs. You can't destroy them or else you die. You have to hit them with Star Killer Swing to reverse their direction, and if they ever run into each other, they die, and they never go away. So it's like a ramping difficulty for the entirety of the phase. It's really cool. Did you guys kill this in testing? We saw everything in the fight in testing. In my testing, we never had more than 3 or 4 people going into P2. Yeah, P1's really hard. Any chance you ever release raid testing VODs after the race is over so we can see how it goes? We don't release them, but I have shown them on my stream after the tier. Like we had like a really good Tindril testing, because like here I remember showing Tindril testing on stream because chat was like, dude, Tindril was so crazy. You guys said you like did really well in testing. I'm like, yeah, well, like it was a totally different boss. And I just showed how different of a boss it was. This looks like a great fight for Race World First, but miserable to mid-late cutting edge guilds. Interesting. Why? Like, what are you seeing about the fight right now that looks like it would be... Because I'm thinking of bosses that are late in the raid and are miserable for late cutting edge guilds, and it's usually like bullshit, like comp stacky bosses that a lot of, like Mugsy, where like a lot of people don't have the porters and they have alts playing them, and that tanks your progression, or like Silken Court, where you have to do the like Final Fantasy ass movement shit. Do you know what I'm saying? But like people can't dodge one shots. Yeah, I wouldn't put too much emphasis in that. I've used this example before, but have you guys noticed that after every single testing cycle, when people watch a bunch of public testing and no one is optimizing the movement or the positioning for melee at all, and then everyone's like, dude, melee are going to be so bad this tier, but they say that every single tier for the exact same reason, and melee is always good or fine and not something you can't play because of how the fight is designed. I think that's also true with the line of thinking you're on right now, which is like, I'm watching this and like, holy shit, this is going to be crazy. But like, look at the room and look at their position right now. Like, can't you imagine the version of this boss that you pull in progression when you get here and you pull up a video and you're like, we're going to do this? It's probably not going to look like this, right? Like, it's going to be figured out over hundreds of attempts instead of what Instant Dollars did here in 1 hour, right? You have a lot of time to think about it. Going into it, and it's not going to look as hellish. It's going to be more logical. Like, you're looking at these, like, one thing that looks really crazy on this fight is like these little purple circles. Like, holy shit, I have to dodge this the whole time. Holy fuck. Okay, well, what if like when you do this in progression, these purple circles aren't that bad because you just have better positioning and you know how to deal with them and you know how to move to deal with it. Like, you know, it's at least that's the way I would look at it. And you're not playing with 300 ms? Yeah, rippy you. The PTR servers are all in LA, or they're all in California. So if you're EU and you want to raid test, you just have completely absurd ping. I don't know if that's true. Do EU guilds not get their own PTR testing server? I think they do. It's the one that really sucks is our EU players who have to raid test on NA realms get absolutely smoked. Oh, EU doesn't have their own? Oh my god. That actually stinks. What is it? This was 695 eye level, right? So plus 28 eye level or some shit, Lamau, plus whatever boss nerfs there are. I wouldn't look at, in my opinion, the eye level that you test these bosses at and then their relative difficulty for the eye level you have is completely irrelevant, because I just think the tuning that exists for the testing environment is just done completely differently than what is actually done on live. I don't think it Do you know what I mean? Like, they tune this testing to have you see the fight and not to like blow your brains out and have you wipe instantly, like a progression scenario. So I don't think that's like considered really. Max, how do you feel about Liberation of Undermine as one of the easiest raids brought out? We are almost at 2100 Mythic Galley killed, which is the number of Castle Nathria. Yeah, and it's actually the first expansion ever, I believe, where there has been more cutting edges in the second tier of an expansion than the first. Or just, I guess it's basically no raid has ever had more clears than the previous raid, I think, in an expansion, or the first one of the expansion, because there's more people playing on launch, right? So I don't think Jaina had a shit ton more than Gahoon. Oh, I read that somewhere. That might have been made up, but that doesn't matter. That means I still made it up. I won't hide from that. I made that the fuck up then. If someone else did it, all good. But it's not surprising because you have a lot of factors, right? So Liberation of Undermine does have a big challenge. Like Muggsy is definitely a big challenge. Just in general, like compared to most raids, like Muggsy is asking a lot of you. Obviously, the last boss, there isn't like an Ansurek this tier. Like when you like in Castle or in that raid, you had to kill Silken Court, which sucked, and then after you did that, you had to kill Ansurek, which was also hard. But in this raid, it's like once you got past Muggsy, it's just like it's over. But I think another part is the stacking raid buff is just absolutely nuts. Not to mention that we got like a second one with the turbo boost thing. Like turbo boosting was even more insane. Like I don't know how much eye level you get from turbo boost. Isn't it like 10 or 12 or something? Like that 12 eye levels. How many eye levels is turbo boosting? Is it less than that? 6, 8, 6? Even 6 eye levels is insane. Plus the belt. Oh yeah, the belt. 6 raid eye levels is like the difference in like a Race to World first boss being 300 pulls or 50. You just people just don't die. Max, do you think they'll do turbo boost again for season 3? I don't know. I mean, the whole reason they're doing turbo boost and why they're doing this mount collection event and why they've released specs in the middle of seasons like they're most likely going to do next season with the DH1 is clearly they're a subscription-based game, so they make all their money off of subs. They're incentivized, and clearly they're acting on that incentive to reward players for playing later in seasons, which, like money-wise, obviously is going to increase the likelihood that anyone stays subscribed, because at least what's been the meta for a while, and I've been on this shit since day one, by the way, but is you just play the first part of the season, and then you have a little fun, and then you just dip. Get world first real quick, do some keys, and just stop, right? And then your sub lapses for like 3 months for most people who do anything like that, right? Minus the world first part. They don't want that, right? They want you to stay subbed the entire time. They feel like they haven't been adding enough content, so they are doing a lot more content or trying to do a lot more content at the end. So your answer is, would they keep doing that? I would assume yes. The only reason I would say no, maybe, is they had like that interview with Ian this expansion where he basically admitted that like, yeah, we are trying to give you more content throughout the expansion, but we failed in this season. Where like they outright admitted to just like in 11.1, 0.5, and 0.7, they just didn't do good enough, right? Like forget all the time gating stuff. Like the time gating, the reason you felt time gated is because what they were currently giving you just wasn't enough for you to feel satiated. So they just didn't do good. So maybe they stopped. If they keep releasing content, but it's content that isn't high quality, like maybe they could start doing less of it, but doing more high quality stuff could be the idea. Yeah, but anyways, that's like the review for the raid. So, all right, now for the fun part. Boys. You guys are now going to do something that's pretty hard to do. Tuning is certainly going to change from how it is right now. But I do want to point out that being really OP in PTR a month before the season comes out is something that a lot of people doom about, right? And I want to say, like, you doom if you're those people because you're like, oh my god, we're going to get nerfed. Those classes still end up being really good, like 90% of the time. It almost never happens where a class is completely absurdly broken and it's not just like a random bug one week, and then they're just terrible in the season. Like, usually it's some talent changes or things that makes you good, and they end up turning it down a little bit. But so if you're like currently really strong, you'll be all right. Okay, what is this sheet called? Oh, here we go. It's called No. The sheet is called No. All right, so this was your all's guess for the casino raid. And I let you keep doing it beforehand. So let's go ahead and copy this. Let's do it, I guess, below it. That's fine. This is going to be the Void raid, or what's it actually called? Manaforge. Manaforge comp predictions. Let's just start with what we have here, which is the actual. This is a long time. So when is the raid coming out? This is like 1 month pre-raid, which, quick reminder, we are 1 month out. All right. So I'll only do polls once we start getting closer. I'm probably not going to do a lot of re-polls, because what happens is you guys will fill out the list and be like, wait, that doesn't look right. We need this thing. We'll do like maybe a couple of those, but we're not going to like super refine it, because I'm going to give you like 2 more chances to do this. But okay, shit. Where should we start? Well, I usually have done this in the past. You guys usually like to just go to DPS first, but I think it's smart to start with tanks and healers, because if you're actually someone who's making a comp, if you have really, really strong tanks and healers, you usually want to start somewhere along there, so it kind of informs your raid buff decisions for what you'd want for DPS. Now, you need to go back to it later, because it's a little more nuanced than that, but so let's just go ahead and just start with tank. So before you guys are naming tank combos, let's actually just do one at a time. So, like, what do you guys feel like is the one tank right now that is like, you're playing this in raid? They're either so tanky, or they do so much damage, or they're like so good for this raid specifically. You guys are saying Blood DK because grips. Well, DPS DK brings grips too now, right? They made Blood DK and DPS grip the same minus mass grip. But that would only be if you feel like there were mass grips in this raid that are relevant, which I just showed you the entire raid on Mythic. And I could maybe give you a spoiler that there was not like a single useful mass grip there. Right, so all right, I've informed you. So here we go. Let's do a quick little poll. So what is your first tank that you want to put in? I'll let you guys vote for it. We got Prot War, we got Prot Pal, we got DK, we got Veng, and we have Druid and Monk. Oh, we don't have enough for... Fuck, I need to see what you guys are posting the least of. I haven't seen anyone post Bear, so I'm going to remove Bear from this and add in one you guys have been spamming a lot, which is Brewmaster. And then obviously we can add Bear in the next one or redo it if you guys want, but just not a lot of people have typed it. All right, what is the first tank we put in? Just to save time, actually Prot Warrior and Prot Pally are... Okay, so Brewmaster's winning by a wide margin, so we're going to throw Brewmaster in for the first tank. Picking tanks first seems troll. There's logic to pick DPS and then tank. And it's like you fill out what's your good DPS and then you fill... And healers, then you like fill tank things. But honestly, I think that's also been looked at too closely in previous raids. Because oftentimes there's just tanks that are just like way better than other tanks. Damage and damage reduction. And that can be the difference between like that. Like let's say you brought Brewmaster here, just for the sake of argument. And let's say you wanted to play Windwalker. You're like, Windwalker's crazy. I love Windwalker. Let's say Windwalker is 300 DPS better than like another class that you'd bring. And you're like, that's really good. We want to play Windwalker. Not the DPS is a little bit more nuanced than that, but let's just say that. Then you're like, okay, well, That's great, but we don't need more than one monk. There's really powerful range we want to stack, and we don't need melee necessarily. And Brewmaster's like, we think Brewmaster is amazing, right? And more importantly, is Brewmaster is 500 DPS better than another tank we would play. So even though DPS, Windwalker might be theoretically like the best DPS in the game, even by 300 DPS, you actually gain raid damage by potentially playing the tank instead, just because of the relative DPS between what they're potentially replacing instead, right? So starting at tank or DPS or healer doesn't really matter, honestly, and you go over it again anyway. Usually once you see a full thing, then you realize some things are off and want to make some changes. Okay, so Prot Warrior and Prot Paladin. Prot Paladin doubled Prot Warrior votes. So for now, I'm going to save time and just... Actually, no. I'll let you guys vote for it. Fuck. I just don't want to hear anyone complain about it. All right, voting for second tank. We'll just do the main ones you guys voted for there. So Prot War, Prot Pal, DK. Those are the main ones. But I guess I'll put Vengeance and Druid on there because we have the room to do it. So fuck it. Be a 1 minute poll. Looks like it's going to be Warrior, though, based on what you guys have already posted. Ooh, close between Warrior and Paladin. So this decision should be heavily influenced by all of your opinions on Holy and Ret Paladin and DPS Warrior. Because if you feel like Holy and Ret Paladin aren't going to be in the comp, you kind of don't have a choice here. It has to be Prot Paladin. And same thing for DPS Warrior. If you feel like DPS Warrior was weak, you would feel like you maybe wanted to put a Prot Warrior there. And then you'd have to think, well, maybe you would play a Prot Warrior and a Prot Paladin because Windwalker is way better than both of all of those things you just mentioned, right? Someone in chat said, I don't even play WoW, I'm just an agent of chaos. UW Druid or Vengeance voter. Cool. Alright, Prot Paladin, it seems. Cool. Okay, healers. I may not do a poll for all four, but let's just get a consensus about what you guys are thinking right now. Let's get a consensus. You can just post the whole comp if you want, and I'll just see if there's like a lot of correlations between everything you're doing. Okay, Mistweaver, H-Priest. A lot of Mistweaver enjoyers. A lot of discs. Seeing a lot of Mistweaver and a lot of discs. So just right away, I'm just going to throw one Mistweaver and one disc just in the comp, just straight up. Actually, it doesn't even need to be a disc, right? They can be both. Actually, it's kind of interesting for people to actually guess the spec. But, like, realistically, like, if you have a disc priest in your raid and Holy's better, they're already there. Yeah, I'm just going to say priest. That's fair. So that means no brew? Not necessarily. There's absolutely a world that could exist and has existed in the past where Brewmaster is the best tank and Mistweaver is the best. Dude, that's like saying, dude, look at last year. Last year you played on some bosses 3 Mistweavers and 3 Windwalkers. Or 2 Mistweavers and 4 Windwalkers or something. And that's like saying, well, now you can't play Windwalker because you already have a monk buff. Like, no, if they happen to be fucking insane, you can bring as many as you want, you know? You don't have 20 spots that are all raid spots. You have about like 5 or 6, arguably 7, that are like, you can just bring stuff that's really good, right? Okay. So now we have 2 more here. So interesting thoughts are common raid buffs that are missing right now from tank and healer that are at least relatively often brought by them are like Druid. Shaman has not been brought from healer in a long time, but something you need to consider. But like Druid is a buff where you have to ask yourself, do we like Feral and Moonkin right now? If you do, if you don't like either, you have to put a Resto Druid here, right? But if you like a Moonkin or if you like a Feral Druid, you could put a Resto Druid here because you feel like they're really strong. But, you know, that could be something you want to maybe run into later. Moonkin is insane, you're not bringing Resto. That's not exactly how that works, right? Moonkin could be insane and also Resto could be great. Also, healer comps are really strange where often the best healer comp is not bringing 4 of the best healer, it's bringing the best combination of healers, which is often like 2 of the best like HPS healers and then 2 healers that do a specific thing. So they're either like ramp to support that, or they're like passive HPS to support the ramp if it's OP, or it's like target healing. Like if you have a comp that does a ton of HPS and no one has any good like targeted healing on certain fights, you're just gonna be terrible. So, just something to think about. Spirit Link is just too OP, so Shaman is always in. Spirit Link is not really OP, and if that was true, how come people haven't run Shamans in a really long time, right? When was the last time the World First Guild played a Resto Shaman in the Race to World First? It's been a long fucking time. I'm thinking it's Castle Nathri, actually. And that was 5 years ago. so yeah, it's been a while. Okay. Max, add another priest and evoker. All right, so I think maybe we start adding some DPS and come back to healer, so we spend less time there later. Because I think that'll inform your healer comp more. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so DPS that you guys are 100% sure about. So there's some we can add here to just save ourselves a lot of time. So because we didn't add a Vengeance Demon Hunter, a Havoc kind of has to exist, right? You cannot bring the mage buff from a healer, so mage kind of has to exist. Warlocks, talked about it a lot. They don't really have a raid buff, but they also definitely do. So they're there. You currently don't have a shaman, so maybe you'd play like some kind of shaman class. You currently don't have grips in a raid where they've said, hey, we're going to make sure you have grips, and you just saw raid bosses where grips are really good. So maybe you're saying you need like 1 DPS DK, so we probably put that in there. You have the paladin buff. You don't have a druid buff, but we also haven't done healers yet, so I'm not saying you're like playing Moonkin yet. You guys can figure that out. And then Hunter has a raid buff. You can't bring it from tank and healer. Is there a scenario where Hunter's raid buff isn't actually usable? Yes. There's been exactly one fight in the last 5 years where, in my opinion, it would have been correct to sit the Hunter raid buff had it existed in that expansion, which it did not. And in that raid, they just RNG high rolled being like basically the best DPS in that raid, so it didn't matter. So we're gonna throw a Hunter in there because that counts. Rogue as well. Rogue cannot be brought by a tank or a healer. It has a 3% DR on most mechanics most bosses do. You could argue you could sit Rogue, but since they've had that raid buff added, they've been brought to every single World First End boss. So I think that's probably fair to do. And that gets you started on DPS, and I like these to look clean with ranged at the bottom and melee at the top. So I'm just going to go ahead and just move these down, and then you guys can start deliberating on the rest of them. Okay, there's another one too. You guys did not choose a prot warrior, so at least for right now, a DPS warrior is required. And I think that might be all of the like required stuff. Because Evoker, you still have to delineate between healer or DPS, but also Evoker doesn't actually have a raid buff. Their 1 hour raid buff is not required in raid at all. And the stuff that you can bring from them is stackable, but also not required. One big question that will somehow have to be answered one day is, what will you do with the Evoker raid buff, in quotes, when they're not OP? Evoker has never had something that has made you require them, except for boss design and Razageth. And the fact that there's been every single tier, there's been one spec of Evoker that's been absolutely broken, except for the World First Race this tier, in which we sat Evoker on multiple fights. So, just while we're on the topic of DK raid buffs and Hunter raid buffs and all the raid buff conversation, Evokers are, if you want to make the argument, Evokers are like in the, we need to be tuned really well to be brought, we don't actually have a raid buff argument. We've never actually been presented with that problem except for a little bit, and they were sat, so something to think about. But Dev is broken right now. Yeah, I mean, you guys can make that choice down here. All right, so guys, are there any classes in DPS right now, before we go back to healer, that you feel like are absolute slam dunks? Like, you got to bring these things. They're nasty. People are saying enhance. Decent amount of enhanced, decent amount of shadow, and people are saying dev. Oh, and DK. People are saying Frost DK. Okay. We already have one DK in. But let's just go ahead and... a lot of people are saying enhance. And a lot of people are saying Moonkin. We can always change this later, by the way. So we're going to add one Moonkin. Okay. There was a decent amount of Shadow Priest. How do you guys feel about Shadow Priest? Before we start adding seconds of anything, let's start thinking about adding first stuff. So Shadow Priest don't really have a raid buff that isn't already brought by Priest. However, PI is value. There's a certain amount of PIs you can bring where they start to lose value, but they're usually up to like 2 or 3. They're about as good as each other. Would you ever swap Brewmaster with Prot Warrior because you already have Mistweaver for touch? Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting conversation, right? Like, if you feel like Warrior's really that bad and you already have Mystic Touch from Mistweaver, you're basically asking yourself, how much better do you think Brewmaster is than Prot Warrior? Because is it possible that Warrior stinks and DPS Warrior stinks and you want to just make that decision right now and get it out, but like you're not thinking about maybe just how much better you think one spec is than the other in tanks. Like a lot of times people are just like, oh, you bring the better of the 2 DPS specs and then you just swap the other one in tank. But honestly, the gap between tanks sometimes can be even bigger than that, and it actually doesn't make sense to do that. But obviously I'm not telling you which way that is, but you know, something you have to think about. It's a good way to think about it though, asking that question. Okay, so now we're getting a little... okay, so I have a question. Do you guys think there's an evoker in the comp? Yes or no? Okay, yes. All yeses. Yes, there's an evoker. All right, what is it? What spec? What's the spec of... what flavor of evoker are we bringing to the raid here? Ooh. Seeing a lot of Prez, seeing a lot of Dev. I mean, for now, I guess you could bring both. Just as we talked about, Evoker doesn't really have anything... bringing one Evoker... like, bringing one Monk, you feel like most of Monk's value is there, and bringing the second one is only based on their power. But, like, when you bring more than one Evoker, you are gaining exactly twice the amount of things that make them what you want to bring to raid, right? Pull it? I mean, I can give you both for now. It's fine. Sounds like people really like Dev, so we'll put Dev in. I mean, let's just go back to healers now. We have 2 more healer specs. I'm just going to do a poll for what you'd want for the 3rd healer spec, and this will only be for the 3rd one unless there's 2 that are way more than anything else, and I might add both. All right, going back to healers. So let's do Ardruid. Let's do Prez. Let's do Mistweaver. Stuff that you guys have posted the most is like Prez and Mistweaver for sure. We had a few Druid enjoyers earlier. Adding more Druids and Shamans does have value because of Stampeding Roars and Wind Rushes, not to be underestimated. I would say in general, both of those buttons are just better than Time Spiral on almost every boss, for example. And then we'll add Holy Paladin. Haven't seen a lot of people post that, but just to make sure the option's there. And then I don't know if there's another... I guess I'll just add another Priest. Fuck it. Okay. 1 minute. What do you guys think for the last 2 healer spots? This is specifically for like the 3rd one, but I'm just interested in your all's vibes here. Okay, so we're adding Prez. Seems like you guys are really high on Prez. And then the rest of them... Resto Druid is a strong second. It is by more than double of the next. Oh, I didn't add Resto Shaman, so I do have to revote for the 4th. I do have to revote for the 4th. I forgot. I didn't add Shaman. I'll do that in a few seconds. Okay, so we're down to a little... so do we have every raid buff? I believe so. 1, 2, 3, 4... 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, I mean, that's how many classes 13. Yeah, I mean that. I think I don't know. Probably, I think so. So we're about to get into the fun stuff. We're about to get into the stuff you guys think is actually good. Revoting for healers. Healer poll for 4th healer spot. I'm going to ignore Holy Paladin because no one voted for it. So, Arsham, Mistweaver, Prez, Priest, and Ardru. Dude, it's crazy how much one tier affects your all's opinion on Holy Paladin. Like, Holy Paladin was brought for so many tiers, and then they weren't brought last tier or even close. They were really bad. And then, but everyone voted Holy Paladin before the raid because you just assume they're always going to be there because they are. I mean, that kind of makes sense. If you just end up playing one class for like 5 years, it's pretty easy to be like, yeah, it's probably going to be in the next raid. A lot of people don't like follow that shit hella close. But it's crazy after one tier, you guys are instantly like, nah. You still think H-Pal will be played? Oh, shit. Okay, so Ardru wins and Resto Shaman's really close. Okay. All right, last 4 DPS spots. So I think the best way to do this, since now this other stuff doesn't matter, you're basically asking yourself, what do you guys think is the best DPS right now? So just start throwing out some names and I'll put them in a poll of some classes we could add a 1 of or a 2 of, right? So, and keep in mind, some of them would be 2 of stuff we already have, but I think there's some here that you guys are posting a lot, like Shadow Priest, where there isn't a single one yet because we didn't need them for the raid buff after the Healer Priest, but... Also, when we usually judge this, we're usually judging it off the end boss, right? I remember when we looked at this, we literally did the count of how many you got right based on the end boss. And if that's the case, we should mention a few things. So there are desausage lines in the last phase that you would have to find a way to outrange, get hit by, or otherwise poured over. There's a damage amp at the beginning of the last phase to... You know, the boss goes from 100 to 0 twice. There's an intermission where you spread out where grips may or may not be required on some ads, right? But there's like a raid split, so there's potential where like maybe you want different raid buffs on each side, right? Or like multiple. You have 2 monks, you already have that covered. But like maybe you would want 2 havocs, or you'd want like a rescue on each side or something. There's a Razageth wins on each platform, for example. Just stuff like that. Just basic thoughts about the raid. Is your dog okay? Yeah, she's fucking dreaming, bro. Could need 2 gateways. Yeah, exactly. You don't know. But... Alright, so I'm just gonna... Let me just look through chat one more time. Just so I can narrow down the first poll we do here. Seeing a lot of Mage, seeing a lot of DK, seeing a lot of Shadow Priest. Okay, here, let's just ignore one poll. How? Say yes or no. One Shadow Priest, yes or no. Okay, vast majority says yes. Okay, we can save some time there. You guys will have a chance to alter this later, I suppose. Also, we're going to do this list like multiple more times. Okay. Next. What classes? Ones you guys were talking about before, where you guys think Moonkins are really good. You guys think Hunters are really good. You guys are saying Mage. I think Mage is really good. We have some 2 DK people. Where are you guys at there? I guess I could just do a poll, see if how many of you guys think is. I guess we should do the most important of those things. We'll just do that real quick. DK, Hunt, Mage, Moon. Was there anything else you guys wanted? I think it's just those. Yeah, alright. Mage is winning the poll. Okay. Second mage. All right. We have 2 more spots. Second Warlock, DK and Hunter, Windwalker Monk maybe. Ooh, got some Windwalker enjoyers. It's actually crazy how many Windwalkers you ended up playing last season. Having fucking healers play it and shit. Alright. Reposting. I don't see a lot of people opting for third mage, so I'm not going to include that in the next poll. We're going to do DK, Hunt. I didn't see almost anyone vote Moonkin, right? I guess we can add that. We have options. So DK, Hunt, Moonkin. We did have someone mention Windwalker. A few people, so we'll do that. We'll just add this for the second to last spot. Okay, a lot of Hunter enjoyers. Hunter is now winning this vote by a fair amount. I can give it more time, though. DK is actually kind of close. Don't you need 2 DKs for the last boss? No one knows. We haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen it. We know there's an ad phase. We know there's some ads that in your split, and you know that there are ads that are potentially grippable, but maybe those ads aren't grippable, or even if they are, you don't need one. You don't know that. That being said, it would be kind of crazy if Blizzard made the end boss of the tier where they specifically addressed making sure DKs had value in Death Grip for their raid utility, and then they just didn't put it on the last boss. It's possible they do that, but it's probably unlikely, right? But even then, you don't know if you need 2 of them, right? So, looks like Hunter won that poll. In reality, you just play Blood DK over Brew if you need second grips. Yeah, that's a way you can think about it. You play Brewmaster the whole raid, but that guy just has a geared DK, whoever it is in your guild, and then you just like swap to that if you feel like you absolutely needed second grips, maybe. That could work because you have the raid buff option. All right. I'm giving you guys 2 potential swaps after we finish our last spot. So for our last spot, which is DPS, I'll add the options you guys have been saying recently. So Hunt, DK, Windwalker, Lock, and Moonkin. Where remove the Moonkin option? I mean, I just had an extra option. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. Oh, it looks like people want a second Frost DK. Okay. You guys get 2 swaps now. And it's basically going to be what I see the most people talking about. Like, so if there's anything about this you guys want to do, removing something and adding something else, what are you guys thinking we do here? And I will count it as 1 if we're doing something like this. So for example, if you guys, I see a few people saying, and I'm not saying you guys need to commit to this, but you're saying like remove warrior, bring prot warrior instead of brewmaster, and then like that's not going to be 2 changes. I'll count that as 1, and then you guys can replace that spot with whoever you want. I'll give you 2 changes for now. Seeing a lot of remove Preservation Evoker for a second Mistweaver.
Actually, wait, that was the same person who spammed it 3 times. No, that was actually a few different people, just same color name. You guys were pretty hot for Prez, though. That's crazy. All right, I'll give you the option. So this is a remove Mistweaver, add, or remove Prez, add Mistweaver. You get a poll here. You must, oh, yes or no. Okay, vast majority are saying no. Okay, cool. What else we got here? Let's do the tank one. Yeah, you guys have to win majority vote. This is a democracy. Doing this by popular vote is so bad. Yeah, probably, but it's good content. I mean, what's the alternative? You all present your individual raid comps. I mean, that would just take forever, you know? Well, it would be kind of interesting if one of you guys like actually got it right after the tier and you like win a Honda or something. Oh, well, not anymore. You win a whatever. Win an Alienware PC. Okay. Doing a poll. Remove, brew. Basically, okay, the poll is this. Monk warrior swap. And what that means is Brewmaster in this scenario becomes Prot Warrior, and then I will allow you to vote for what you want the DPS class to be for the removed warrior. So that's what you're voting for. Yes or no? Remove Paladin, not Monk Tank, says one person. Yeah, interesting. Well, then you'd have to add a Ret, right? It doesn't seem like chat's super high on Ret. Okay. Looks like that's going to win. So no more Brewmaster. Also, is there another thing we could think about too? I know you guys already made this decision, but I know you already made this decision, but is there something to be said about reworks, meaning a class is going to be good? Like, if your class is getting reworked in any particular patch, the chances that it ends up being OP are like, it's not every time, but it's like 70, 80, 90%. It's like pretty up there, right? And what's getting reworked this patch? DK got reworks. We got reworks on Brewmaster majorly. We got Shadow Priest, little baby reworks. I think like MM got a lot of changes, or just Hunter in general got a lot of changes. I'm not saying maybe you guys are already aware of this and you're seeing that on PTR and that's why you're saying these things. It's just like if you were to just not even know they were good at all, but just simply know the fact that they are reworked, that could be something you could use to come to a decision that maybe you think it's going to be in. And historically, it'd be pretty accurate. So, okay. So, what do you guys want instead of your now replaced Prot Warrior? You still have 2 change, or this is your 1 change, right? That you've done, and you'll still get 1 after this if you guys can actually agree to change anything. All right. Here's what I don't understand. A lot of people, we have all the raid buffs now, and you guys will be voting for things like, oh, we want a second Hunter. The only reason you'd ever want a second Hunter, as opposed to a second DK, you get some more grips on maybe a split fight. But a second Hunter, you're basically just saying Hunter's sick. And you voted for a second Hunter before the first of what you guys are spamming now, which is like Windwalker, and some people are saying Ellie. So like, I just don't understand the logic. Like, if you didn't want a Windwalker instead of this Hunter, why would you now want a Windwalker instead of a third Hunter? Or a third of a mage, right? You voted for a second mage before a first of something. Like, why would you want that? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying the logic doesn't make sense. I guess there could be some, like, we want more melee. We want to have a bunch of melee rather than range. That could make it could maybe matter. I don't know if it'd be pretty hard to tell with the last boss right now exactly which one of those you want, but because some people have zero clue what they're doing. Yeah, but that's part of this is maybe we can, I imagine by the few times we've done this now that especially like the more casual viewer hopefully is a little bit more knowledgeable on the thought that goes into creating a raid comp. And so part of this is it's fun, and part of it is hopefully some people are gaining some insight on how that's actually done, and maybe they're getting better at it. Chad is using this as a representation of spec hype and perceived strength without consideration for utility. Yes, but also damage is king and healing is king, you know? Like, utility really matters. It does. But also, like, when you historically ever get faced with the question of how much does utility matter, which is, are we bringing this class that has great utility for this fight, or are we swapping that thing out for this thing that does a ton of damage? It's usually that. You know? Just having more throughput makes everything easier. Okay, I forgot to do a poll, so I'm just going to keep adding what you guys have said. So, this is for last DPS spec. You guys have spammed Windwalker. You guys have spammed second Shadow Priest. Now, there's some value in taking a second Shadow Priest over, like, if you use that same logic before of, like, hey, you picked a second Hunter and a second Mage before your first Priest. Actually, I don't even know if that's true. I think you picked second Mage before first Priest, but that's it. Why wouldn't you just bring a third Mage? There is value up to a certain point of bringing PIs, like, more than just the class's damage. Not infinitely. If you start bringing your 9th PI, theoretically, that 9th PI does not have the same value as the first one. But usually up to... Depends on the raid, but usually 2 or 3 have, like, the same value as each other. So Windwalker, Shadow Priest. What else we got here? Any more opinions? Enhance? Another enhance? Okay. Havoc? Another Havoc. Okay, I'll add Havoc. Another Warlock. Sure. Those all work. Who's calling me? Nah, we don't do calls. Okay, and then the last one is just a bunch of things that people are just posting one of and no one else is posting. So we're just doing these 4. Okay, looks like it's Shadow Priest. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. You know, what I kind of expected from this was you guys looking at testing and looking at PTR balance and making a, like, crazy comp based on what's currently... Like if current tuning went live, there would be, like, 4 or 5 of one spec, right? But I think maybe as you guys started making this, you started forming with what you saw in PTR, but then also what a raid comp historically looks like. And you're like, no, I don't know if this is going to be right because, like, there's no way it goes live like that. But I think another fun way to look at it is, like, this is what you think the comp prediction would be like if it was right now. I guess you are predicting the comp for the raid, so it's fair. You guys are doing the right thing. All right, you guys get one more change if you want it, but there has to be a decent amount of people that all want the same thing. You get one more potential change. You guys already tried to remove Prez for another Mistweaver, and that vote failed. It can be DPS, it can be tank, it can be healer. If it's ever replacing a raid buff, and it's obvious that raid buff needs to go somewhere else, I will give you that option. Wait, someone said there's a lot of movement bosses. I will gift 100 subs after the race if a second Shadow Priest is played. Okay, I'll hold you to that. So, I think stuff like that kind of matters. But I think it matters more for like mid-tier bosses. Like if you're going to kill a mid-tier boss in 10 to 15 pulls, maybe bringing classes that struggle with movement on a really movement-intensive fight makes sense. But like when you're killing a mythic end boss, movement can be really challenging. But if the class that's bad at movement is just the best at DPSing the fight, like the profile is right, that supersedes everything else, because when you're looking at someone getting better over 50 pulls and you're a caster and it's a movement intensive fight, probably the thing they get the best at is their movement, right? Like on pull 1, it's going to be like, holy shit, I can't do any damage, which matters. Like you want to do damage early in progression to see farther in the fight, and then that's how you kill bosses in less wipes and stuff. But when it comes to being able to possibly kill a fight and getting the most you can out of your guild, it could be playing a really shitty movement class on a really hard movement fight because they just happen to be the best one, you know? So if that happens, I'll take the subs though. Can we just remove the Moonkin and go 19 man? All right, I don't see anything compelling. You guys are pretty all over the place with it. All right, we will revisit this in a couple weeks. Has there been a raid comp that's looked like this in a while, just now that it's done? Kind of, right? Like, well, I guess you haven't played a Moonkin in multiple tiers, except for Styx. When was the last time you played 2 Hunters? I guess, well, we played it a little bit this year, played it on a few fights. But like for an end boss double Hunter, been a while. Double Mage on an end boss is not uncommon. When was the last time you played double DPS DK? I mean, literally 2 tiers ago, right? Beginning of this expansion. That's not... In fact, double DPS DK on an end boss is like not really uncommon at all. 2 Hunters. So while double Hunter isn't a really common thing you play, it is a rework class. So betting on a rework class for you guys is smart, probably. You let me down with the no Windwalker Monk. I didn't do anything. This is what you all did. I'm pretty sure you'll need 2 monks just to get a buff on each side. Interesting. So like when you're talking about splitting your raid, I think it's more something to think about having a Havoc on each side. Because like, okay, if you only have 1 monk buff and you have to split your raid 10 and 10, it's pretty easy to put your majorly physical damage doing classes on just one side. Right? It's really hard / impossible to have your Havoc on a side with only magic dealers, right? Like basically everyone does magic damage. There's only a few specs that like just do pure fizz. So in that way, these 2 buffs aren't the same. But in another way, these 2 buffs aren't the same is Havoc is a 3% increase to magic dam, and Monk is a 8% increase to Fizz. So like if you ever, but the thing is like, I mean, who in this raid would feel like absolute shit if they weren't on the side with the Monk debuff, right? It'd be the 2 hunters. It would be, I mean, I guess like the rogue, but not really. And like the prot warrior, you know? So I mean, you kind of see the point, right? Like, looking at it that way, do you really feel like you need 2 monk buffs for each side? The guy in chat who said that? Max, when was the last time there were 4 unique healers rather than 2 of the best spec? When was the last time you played Rainbow Comp? I don't know. I mean, it kind of doesn't make sense to play Rainbow Comp because most raids, because while you running 4 of the same healer is like extremely rare, / I don't know if that's ever happened. It's because of profiles, right? But like if you run 2 of the very best healer, which there usually is a defined like best raid healer each patch, with 2 more healers you can shore up all of the OP healers' weaknesses with those 2. So like the 2 and then the other 2 healers, and there's some raid buffs involved with that, but it's usually like profile related. That kind of makes sense. When was the last time you ran pure Rainbow? It's been a long fucking time. There was multiple tiers in a row where you ran double priest, double holy paladin in Shadowlands. Double disc, sorry. Razageth, I think I don't remember the last time you did it. Like, I feel like if you're running a Rainbow comp, most likely the case is your guild specifically just healers. Okay, so really good healers are like the hardest thing to find in the race. And then really good healers that can actually multi-class are, I mean, also very, very hard to find. So, like, the reality could be the best comp could be, let's just say for the sake of argument, what you guys picked here, but maybe within your guild, your Prez player or something, or like, let's say you have like a Holy Paladin guy, but like Holy Paladin isn't in the best comp, but maybe it's in your best comp, like your guild's best comp, because that player isn't great at multiclassing and they're really good at this. Same thing with like any other spec. Let's say you have like a really good Resto Shaman player. He's just a fucking beast at Resto Shaman, not as great as his alts. And if you're thinking about like what's best for your guild, it may not be running the statistically best healer comp. It might be the best comp for your guild, which involves swapping one of these out for a Resto Shaman, right? That's like pretty common. In fact, I want to say even at the world first guild level, like top 5 guilds, I think that is a mistake people make pretty often, is overestimating their healer's ability to multiclass and just having them play their main, because healers are usually close enough to where that's fine, and the mastery of a healer's main would make up for the other stuff, not to mention the deaths being... That's the main thing. When you have a healer that's not a great multiclasser play another healer, they can usually get the healing right, but holy fuck, they're just turbo dead. They're just always dead. Max, there are only 4 characters in Liquid with an eye level of 685. They are all Dryne's characters. Why is he the only one committed to the grind? Bro, he's just... Okay, he probably does... He's probably wearing bad gear on purpose just to do that. He even posted something in Current Raiders like a couple days ago. Let me see if I can find it. Where he's like... He posted the list of the top geared characters in the guild, and like of the 12 it showed, 8 were him, and he just typed almost went for the sweep. I'm pretty sure he's just... equipping like bad gear for eye level just to like meme on everyone in the guild or something. Or maybe he actually is about that shit. Who knows? Copium thinking rogue will be good. Yeah, that's it's an interesting thing. Like if atrophic poison actually worked on an every single end boss ability or the majority, which is usually true. What's the first boss in WoW's history where you're going to sit a like basically a 3% damage reduction on the raid? It's interesting. It could happen. Like Rogue would have to be sensationally bad to not do that. Like that's basically saying when is the first time you're gonna kill a mythic end boss without devotion aura from a paladin? Like, could you do it? Yeah, but like that's just so bad. Like it's turns out taking 3% less damage all the time is fucking crazy. Plus, it's like never something you'd want to sit early, right? Like if you're getting to a boss and it's like a true damage burn, like Queen Ansarek, right? Are you gonna want to not bring like a devotion aura or a rogue from pull number 1? I don't know, right? Like it's gonna hurt every step of your progression. It's more like if you're ever gonna make that decision, it's when you realize you know you can kill the boss, you can look at what phases that would really affect you in, especially now because people have mastery over those phases. And then you could say, okay, let's bring a rogue now. Or let's sit our rogue and bring in X best class that we've been gearing in Mythic Plus for the next 3 days. And then now we're going to like gain so much damage. And we're so good at the fight now that we are going to not need that damage reduction as much. Now, there's one major reason you still really don't want to do that. And that is that you get to the end boss and you're about to kill it and you're 300 pulls deep to actually make that decision. And then you're choosing to bring in someone who is 300 pulls behind everyone else. And you have to ask yourself how long it's going to take that person to get at the same page. If it's a boss like Queen Ansarek, you just lost like 2 hours of progression, bare minimum, by making that decision. And you're basically hoping that you're going to kill the boss more than 2 hours faster than you would with the rogue, or being able to kill it at all with the extra damage in this made-up scenario, to make up for that loss of relearning. Like pretty much the worst decision you could ever make. And sometimes you have to make this decision, but like the most punishing thing you can do is having made a wrong decision on an end boss comp and then realizing it 300 pulls late. Like making changes 50 pulls into an end boss happens fucking all the time. You can like run a comp that's good for P1 and P2 and you get to P3 and you need something else and you make a change. But like making that change 300 pulls in, it means that you have either made an aggressive gamble that did not pay off, or you have objectively made a mistake. Usually. Because, like, realistically, if you were good and you ever had to make that decision, you would have foresaw, this is part of, like, what my job is, you would have foresaw that being an issue in the future, had the relearning happen earlier, but at a less steep cost because it's way less pulls ago. It's like, you know, hundreds of pulls less, and you would have made the decision then, even though it wasn't currently the best thing to do, but it would have been like you would have saved overall more time by doing it then. Would need to be a mathematical unkillable situation. Yeah, the thing is there really hasn't. Anytime you approach a boss that you feel like is mathematically unkillable with your current gear, which is very rare, and even when that is true, like even if my analyst is telling me that, like, hey, like, if we use our CDs here and here, we literally sit a healer or whatever, like, this boss is still not killable. I'm never going to tell that to the raid because that can, like, change. I mean, you just become less locked in when you feel like what you are doing isn't achievable. It's just a thing. So, and also, if a boss is mathematically unkillable and it's specifically their health percentage, like, hey, in the time you have in the Enrage to kill this boss, you can't do that much damage right now. there's really no reason to even think about that until you are at the point where you are perfect at the encounter, because you can kind of lose sight of the fight. Like, if there's still things to learn and get better at, those pulls aren't useless if the only thing that is happening is you're wiping at 3% because the boss has too much HP. You should just still keep pulling, even though maybe at that time it isn't killable. And to be honest with you, most of the time when you do that, when I felt like a boss wasn't killable in recent memory, you assume that Blizzard's just going to make it killable, right? The days of like Queen Ashara being unprogressively overtuned for multiple days is like, even Razageth. Razageth was an absolute disaster of tuning, but like they did sequentially fix all of the things. They didn't leave it like that forever, right? So you felt like you could still keep getting better at the fight until they fixed it, and then once they fixed it, you're more consistently to that part anyway, right? So that's not really how that works. Like, if there's an unkillable boss, like an unkillable boss doesn't really change much. And I can't remember a time in recent history where there was an unkillable boss and we got as perfect at the fight as we could be, and we actually just left the raid to go farm Mythic Plus until they fixed it. Almost always, by the time it takes you to get good enough at the fight to kill it anyway, they will make that change by then, which is good on them too, because it would be super fucking annoying if they didn't do that. N'Zoth looked unkillable when you had got it from 40% to 0, but it got done. I feel like Ansarek was the boss from the public. You guys could tell me if this is true or not. That looked the most unkillable until it was killed. You know? Like, I mean, there were world first guilds on broadcast saying this boss isn't currently killable, and then it was killed. So I'm pretty sure publicly I think it was that one. Does having to one tank Princess as unkillable count? I think so, because no, because it literally was killable and it was killed. But yeah, I mean, having to one tank, oh my god, dude, I hope that never happens again. Sylvanas? Oh yeah. It's also rare for damage early in progression to allow you to see more. Yeah, I mean, so what are the two types of fight mechanics where, like, let's just say you want to see as far as you can on a boss, so everyone plays a tank, or you just play only tanks and healers or something, because damage truly didn't matter. Usually ads will spawn that you can't kill in time, and so you're looking at being able to kill an ad, like on Galliwix even, right? Like killing the ads in P1. Or you're going to wipe to like percentage-based pushes, but they don't do a lot of percentage-based pushes anymore. Except for last raid when they did multiple out of nowhere for the first time in like multiple years. Max, did you guys ever consider one-tanking Muggsy? No. I still remember Gingy's face when they pushed Sylvanas to the heroic kill percentage and she did not die. Yeah, I don't understand why Echo had that reaction. Except for maybe they didn't data mine that specifically. I think I remember asking Roger about this, but I don't remember his answer. But like, I know their face, they like crazy pog face when he didn't die. But like, we knew the whole time that it was 45%. There's a spell flag that was like on Mythic, the number is 45 instead of 50, which could basically only mean one thing. But I guess like when you're that close to winning, you still like, there's a chance and like you're getting ready to get excited. And I kind of get that. But they did act like completely surprised. But their data mine game is great. It's as good as ours is. But maybe they missed that specifically, or I don't know. It's strange. It was posted on Wowhead that it was 45. Maybe they just didn't trust it. All raid-based related Wowhead posts are like usually a week late from what the Race World First are data mining it, just because it's our priority and their priority is like more public-facing stuff. I saw you thinking 2 mage and comp. Did you say what spec? I didn't say that at all. I didn't predict a comp in any way. That was my chat, which are all geniuses. So you can trust that comp with your life. Yerd. Oh, the dogs are excited. Nothing's happening and they're hype. That's crazy. It's actually crazy. Nothing's happening. I sat up in my chair. That's it. Ella, show me the mouse. Ella, show me. Oh, she got the bird. Oh, it's the hot dog. Can I see the hot dog? Ella, can I see the hot dog? A little hot dog. She loves this thing. It's a little sweet little hot dog. You think it's time? Oh, just stop streaming? Maybe. Yeah, let me see if there's anything on Wowhead real quick. I mean, it's the weekend. Like, there's no shot they announced anything, right? I can't stream the next 2 days. I'm going to be recording stuff. Actually, I might be able to stream Tuesday, because I'm recording, like, later in the day. Actually, yeah, I should be streaming Tuesday, for sure. 2-hour streams, nice. Okay, yeah, my copium is, I give you high quality. Like, I basically passionately ramble for 2 hours, and instead of less passionately rambling for 2 more hours, you know that the 2 hours you tune in, you know that every minute I'm live, I'm fucking on it. And the second I'm bored, which is when my stream would suck, it's off. You know? You got to think about it like that. That's the way I am cope thinking about it. I want to watch you eat and react to something. Ooh, I do need to eat. If there's something cool to react to, I could do that. Max would never survive a subathon. I would never do a subathon under any circumstances. That sounds like the worst thing ever. So yeah, you're right. There's a new Haruma Red video. Oh, word? Oh, word? Is there really, though? Top 10 things that should be re-added. Oh, shit. Wait, that's kind of a banger. Okay, well, I just hovered over it and it instantly gave away vanilla mounts. Okay, that's so hard to guess, though. Like, that could be anything. Are you talking, like, systems? Are you talking legendaries? Are you talking... Like, that is so hard to guess. But maybe we could cook about it. Okay, let me go reheat some food and then we'll do this. That's fine. Dude, little stream extension. Fuck it. Little stream extension. I microwave my food like a real beast. We got a Titan Forge stream. All right, let's start thinking about it while my food's getting heated. Top 10 things that should come back in World of Warcraft. So he mentions vanilla mounts. I don't really know where he's going with that. Does that mean like they're in your bags? And like you have to click them? I don't even understand the cook there. Mage Tower, but a new one? Oh yeah, that reminded me that they tried to do that this expansion. Anyone remember that? The super crazy delve guy at the end of every season. Like that was like kind of pitched as like a mage tower thing, and that's just I mean it just totally is not that. Uh, Mostly due to the rewards being different. Like not as cool. All right, you guys, mage tower was something you're pretty hyped about. Let's do that. All right, what else? What else? What else? What else? Dude, I got one. I got one. Realm first titles and achievements. I know that this may not get agreed with because this was removed because so many people. I mean, it makes sense, right? When you give really cool things to people who are doing Realm first stuff, the majority of people aren't going to like that because they don't get it. And I think you guys saw with Plunderstorm, like there's a large amount of people who play this game that have to have everything. That's the way they think about it. They have to get it, and if they can't get it, then it's bad, right? Top 10 things they should re-add. Reforging? Yeah, fuck it. We have to come up with 10 anyway, so. Personal loot? Nah. Glyphs? I feel like glyphs very overrated. Glyphs are in the game still? Yeah, but they're like cosmetic. They mean old glyphs, which were just like very basic power things that you just changed. The bonus rolling? Ooh, I kind of like that. Hero class order halls. Ooh, I like that. Like, they still exist in the game, but, like, you don't go to them all the time, and it was sick when you did. They just made them really well, and then they were just something you never go to again. Class-specific quests, like Warlock Fire. Ooh, like... Ooh, yeah, I mean, they're bringing that... I mean, I'm a fan of them releasing cosmetics in the game, either earnable or in-store, that, like, change the aesthetic of your class, you know? I think that'd be sick. Like, imagine mages. Like, mages already have a lot of different flavors going on, but just imagine you can turn your fire, like, blue. That would look cool. If you just wanted it to be that way. Or, like, a quest line or some shit like that. Target uncapping abilities. Target cap? Sure. He's not going to mention that, but fuck it. Mop classes? Actually interesting borrowed power. Yeah, I mean, I'd throw that in there. End of expansion. Vengeance for tanks again. God, that was the best time to tank ever. Like, defensively. It felt the best. Challenge modes. I don't even wonder. I wonder how they would even do challenge modes now. I'm not hyped about any of these. Additional raids within a tier. Ooh, I know a lot of people like that, but I'm not a huge. I don't think that matters. Smaller raids. Ooh, I like the mini raids in general though. This isn't like I'm thinking the first person that said that was like you were talking about like tier 11 or tier 14 where there's like 3 raids within the same season. But I'm thinking more like the mini raids. Like, I wish they would do more like Crucible of Storms, stuff like that. Trial of Valor was all part of Nighthold, very similar to Tier 14. That's much different than Crucible of Storms. I would want more Crucible of Storms, so I'm just going to call those mini raids. Torghast? Torghast, but good. Yeah, Torghast, but you don't have to do it for power, so people actually enjoy it. All right, I'm going to go get my food. We're going to... Guys, think of any good ones. I'll give you, like, 30 seconds, and then we're starting this video. Okay. Brawlers Guild, W. Mass Summon. Ooh, I like Mass Summon too. Okay. Slamming it.
Over things that we would love to see a reintroduction into World of Warcraft. As a game that has spanned over 20 years, with growths and declines in the player base, there are numerous items, systems, rewards, and activities that have been fundamentally lost in time. Whether it was finding a player with a unique weapon or a very cool mount, finding out it is unobtainable doesn't feel very motivating. So here is a list of items that should find a way back into the game for new players to experience the
Shit. We should have listened to the intro. We got baited by the title. So it's items? Wait. Let me...
unique weapon or a very cool mount, finding out it is unobtainable doesn't feel very motivating.
Oh, no.
So here is a list of items that should find a way back into the game for new players to experience the joy of working towards obtaining them.
All right, well, even though we didn't actually get to, like, guess the stuff, isn't it about the journey? Right? Isn't us talking about the things that should have come back? That's the content, guys. You know? Like, we still got the content out of it, even though it wasn't about what this video is about at all. Not at all. Didn't we still have this time together? It's not like it didn't happen.
Coming in at number 10, it may surprise a few people, are removed quest and dungeon rewards, as it has already made somewhat of an appearance through Dragonflight's patch 10.1.5 and 10.1.7 respectively. Burning Crusade, Wrath, and Legion. While there is some hope for the Legion remix to include a reintroduction of the pre-patch weapons and armor,
let's see if there's any good
Frost
ones.
Ram, Icy Blue mechanic, and either
Wait, Brawlers Guild, we got one right. This isn't an item.
Gizmo's Brawl Club for Alliance, or
what do you
Brawl
mean?
Arena for Horde. It was first introduced in Mists of Pandaria's patch 5.1 and continued throughout the expansions into Warlords of Draenor for the second season, Legion for the third, and finally Battle for Azeroth for the fourth and final season of Brawlers Guild. There's really no speculated reason as to why.
Okay, here's why. Here's my guess of what happened here. He did the opening monologue about items. He ran out of items to make a top 10, added things, changed the title of the video from its original inception and script. And then that is why we're here. That's my guess, which means that some of these things might get talked about.
The Brawlers Guild was seemingly abandoned and discontinued
Wow,
after
I got
Battle
double
for
baited.
Azeroth's final iteration. It appears that with the launch of Shadowlands during the pandemic's peak and tons of Blizzard employees working from home or otherwise in quarantine, development of many game modes sat on the back burner. Since the Brawlers Guild usually released with a 1.0 or 1.5 patch, it was not too concerning to not have news of the Shadowlands' own Brawlers Guild for a while, and yet it unfortunately never made a reappearance. All throughout Shadowlands, into Dragonflight, and to War Within, there have been no efforts made to even attempt to reintroduce the Brawlers Guild back into the game, and all invitations have since been grayed out. With its initial introduction with Pandaria,
Brawlers Guild fucking owned. You go in there with your boys, trying to do a hard boss that actually took progression to do. I'm actually surprised more people didn't hate Brawlers Guild, because some of the bosses were genuinely really hard. And because people feel like there's this part of the population that like needs everything and they need their worst from Brawlers Guild, but they can't get it because it's too hard. Why would those people not hate this like they hate everything else like that? Right? But I don't know. There was just such a vibe where when you were in there, like, yeah, you'd be waiting in line and you had to watch other people go, but like, I don't know, every now and then you'd see someone get crammed by Bruce, and that was hilarious. And it was actually interesting to watch people do the really hard fights well.
the Brawlers Guild had felt like a highly secretive and elite fight club, and had a very fun way of engaging with players who sought to participate.
What is the overworking emote? Who added that? That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
By including lucrative invitations dropping rarely or through a fun referral system.
Why is it called overworking,
makes
bro?
An MMO multiplayer a game, socialization. If you didn't have access to the guild, there were players who could grant you a special invitation to participate, and in turn allowing you the option to pass it on. To take a different approach from the collector-focused entries prior, the Brawlers Guild provided a fun and enjoyable atmosphere. Instead of AFKing in the capital city all expansion, it allowed everyone to congregate and have live entertainment through other players participating in the guild. The thrill of a live audience cheering you on, it truly felt like you were engaging with the real World of Warcraft. Other players chatting up and hanging out while waiting in queue for their arena turn.
Dude, this is facts. This is like the last thing in the game that actually felt like this. This is completely unique. But when you unlock something that cool and it evoked that feeling from you, why not continue making it? Did it ever fall off? Like maybe it fell off.
Nothing
Maybe it's only when it first came out it felt like
felt
that.
more fun than slipping down into the secret tram fight club to talk to other players and get tips on how to defeat the bosses and climb the ranks. A whole community that died away with the discontinuation of the Brawlers Guild. Think of some iconic Brawler Guild's characters. Epic Maximus, Nibla, and of course Bruce.
Yeah, dude. Bruce was an absolute beast.
Propolis, who was randomly found. The old rewards could be cool added back, especially with their seasonal removal. However, the most fun aspect of the Brawlers Guild was objectively the community that was formed in and around the arena. It seems we really shouldn't hold our breaths to see if the Brawlers Guild will return or not in the near future, or past the World Soul Saga. But it would be a lovely surprise to be re-added along with all the
What's
Oathbound
next?
and raiding achievements on this list.
Wait, what?
And this is a combination of both Keystone and raiding achievements. Or rather, their mount rewards. Very well known are the two achievements, Keystone Master and Ahead of the Curve. With the
So is he arguing, like, for newer players, what would you like to see brought back? But, like, I don't know. Like, even just some basic-ass shit like KSM or getting ahead of the curve and getting a mount for it. I just feel like it's okay for there to be limited time things you can earn. And by making them all available, I don't know. But also when it comes to like mounts, I feel the opposite. So who knows?
mount rewards.
Maybe it should.
Very well known are the two achievements, Keystone Master and Ahead of the Curve. With a recent addition of Keystone Legend in Warwithin's second season, we'll go ahead and lump all of them together. A bit of a history of Ahead of the Curve mounts, as it predates Keystone Master by 3 expansions. The very first Ahead of the Curve mount was the Kor'kron Warwolf, a reward directly from the achievement Ahead of the Curve Garrosh Hellscream 10 player, and Ahead of the Curve Garrosh Hellscream 25 player. Another difference is this was also only available on normal mode difficulty up until the launch of 6.0, and couldn't be obtained on Heroic. With a later adaptation of Ahead of the Curve in Warlords of Draenor with the Grove Warden, the iconic moose mount promised by old Blizzard developer Ghostcrawler. This was later changed to be a heroic and mythic only. A common misconception about
Next one.
variation of the Gladiator PvP sets, either with different
Bro, I don't know if you guys have like the PvP community on your Twitter every now and then. Like basically mine never shows up unless like there's some random drama, or usually around interview season. What happens, at least on my Twitter, is you'll see like a PvE interview get posted and then just a bunch of PvPers rage tweeting it, being like, how come we never get interviews about PvP? That's all I hear from them, right? But I know that they get really mad about stuff. And man, if you could go back and refarm Gladiator stuff, I think they might explode. They might
assets
actually
of
just
colors.
blow the fuck
With
up.
Warlords of Draenor Season 2, the Elite sets became Elite recolors of the PvE raid sets. Or in other words, just another recolor with mythic style effects. This was temporarily changed in Battle for Azeroth's first and second season, Dread and Sinister.
Moving on.
Since their introduction in Burning Crusade.
Oh.
Prior to Mists of Pandaria, or in
Elite
other words,
PvP appearances and Gladiator mounts, and it was so hard to make a top 10 that we've separated them.
the Gladiator mounts have been
Okay, we got
challenge that was
Mage
added in
Tower
Legion's
right,
patch
kind of.
7.2, with the introduction of the Tomb of Sargeras. It was an unlockable challenge in Mists of Pandaria. Challenge modes granted the premise from the undead Alexandros Morgraine, before its removal in Wrath of the Lich King, when next
Yeah, fucking hell yeah. All right, that